So you want to main Nemesis, Goddess of Vengeance. First, ask yourself, why do you want to main Nemesis? She can reflect and heal. Nemesis can be pretty pesky to those with defense. She has high mobility. Burst damage ain't got nothing on Nemesis. But before you main her, it's good to know the cons of Nemesis. Hard CC counters Nemesis really hard. Her clear is not the best. Nemesis is a SMITE Greek Assassin. SMITE has classified her as an average god, and in my opinion, I agree. I do find her average. If you're an experienced Nemesis or you just love playing her, feel free to add any of your tips down below. In this guide, we're going to go through Nemesis as a jungler, going through her abilities, attack cancelling, combos, builds, counters, what not to do, and general combat tips. With that, let's go through her abilities. Nemesis passive Scales of Fate. Nemesis holds the scales of balance. Hitting enemies with basic attack tips the scales in her favor. This reduces the target's physical and magical power and increases her power. This stacks, and it stacks at a maximum of 4. With this passive, you really want to make use of her basic attacks to give you an advantage. This makes her good in 1v1 situations. But this does poorly against gods who can prevent you from basic attacking them. Gods such as Serket, for example. Nemesis' first ability, Swift Vengeance. Nemesis' 1 is a dash ability type. Nemesis dashes in a line, dealing damage to enemies in her path. She may dash again within 2 seconds. She may use basic attacks and abilities between the dashes. This is Nemesis' main escape, but not necessarily her main engagement either. In regards to damage, this ability can be used as a follow-up. Nemesis' second ability, Slice and Dice. Nemesis' 2 is a cone ability type. Nemesis deals damage in an area in front of her. Enemies in the center of her swing are struck for 2 times damage and slowed for 2 seconds. This ability is her main damage and slow, and it can be used as an engagement. This damage and slow is a very nice setup. Nemesis' third ability, Retribution. Nemesis' 3 is a buff ability type. Nemesis activates a temporary shield around her that protects her from a set amount of damage or until time expires. A percentage of the incoming damage from gods is healed and reflected back to the source. Hard crowd control removes the shield. This ability is really nice to have, especially in 1v1 situations with bursty gods, as you can pretty much dull down a lot of the damage. Nemesis' ultimate, Divine Judgment. Nemesis' ultimate is a buff ability type. This buff lasts for 5 seconds. Nemesis chooses a single enemy god, reduces their health and movement speed, and stealing a portion of their protections. Her movement speed is also increased during this time. This ability is especially great to engage with in teamfights. This ability gives her an advantage in 1v1 situations. Now let's get into the leveling priority for her abilities. For the first 5 levels, at level 1, her 2, at level 2, her 1, at level 3, her 2, at level 4, her 3, at level 5, her 4. For leveling priority, her 4 for increased damage and movement speed, her 2 for increased damage, her 3 for increased healing, damage reflect and shield health, her 1 for increased damage. So basically 4, 2, 3, 1. Just a little note, at level 8 you can do a level skip. At level 8 you're only able to put a point into either her 1 or her 3. If you would like to put a point into your 2 and ultimate instead, do not level anything until level 9. This is optional. Attack cancelling on Nemesis. Attack cancelling allows for some extra basic attack damage to come through. This isn't mandatory to do, but I would like to mention that attack cancelling is very useful on Nemesis, especially because of her passive. So if you really want to become a god like Nemesis, I really recommend you practice attack cancelling on her. Attack cancelling works on all of her abilities. I would recommend putting all of her abilities on quick cast. For her first ability, as soon as you basic attack, use her 1, basic attack again, and then dash again. For her second ability, As soon as you use your basic attack, use her second ability. As soon as you use her second ability, use her basic attack. For her third ability, as soon as you basic, use her third ability. As soon as you use her third ability, use her basic attack. This is a really important attack cancelling. For her ultimate, as soon as you use your basic attack, use your ultimate. As soon as you use your ultimate, use your basic attack. Combos for Nemesis. Before we get into combos, a few pointers. Nemesis does not always engage with her 1. As much as it seems like it would be the obvious choice, it's not. Nemesis can engage with her 1, 2, or ultimate. Her first ability is more of likely a follow-up ability. I would recommend getting Blink on her. It works very nicely on her, but only if you can afford to in the game. Sometimes you might need an Aegis over a Blink. Remember that her passive buffs her when she uses her basic attacks. Each basic attack makes her stronger and makes the enemy weaker. Her third ability and her ultimate are situational but also work very nicely in your combos. Use her third ability if you're about to take damage you want to avoid. I would recommend using her ultimate on tankier enemy guards during team fights or on enemy guards your team wants to focus on. Remember that she has 2 dashes with her first ability, and her dash is good both for escaping and damaging enemies. Her dash is mostly a follow-up skill as well. You can choose whether to include it in your combos or not. Her combos are situational, and that is due to her 3 and 4, which both fits into combos very well, so use it when you need to. I really do recommend implementing basic attacks between her abilities as it does stack her passive and Nemesis's attack cancelling is really good. Even though her third ability is very situational, it is very likely enemy gods will try to counter-attack you. Her attack cancelling on her 3 is really good, so feel free to use your third ability while boxing other enemies. So for her combos, 3, basic, 1, 1, basic, 2, basic, basic, 3, basic, 2, basic, basic, 4, basic, 2. If you really want to do these combos without attack cancelling, feel free to ignore the basics and just use the abilities. Attack cancelling takes time to learn if you don't do it at all, and if you just want to practice with Nemesis first, that's also fine. I know these also sound long and confusing. I would like to add that if you guys have any other combos for Nemesis, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. Her attack cancelling makes her combos very flexible. Builds for Nemesis. Builds always depend on what kind of enemy you're up against. My builds in this video is just a general guideline. You can adjust accordingly depending on your game and situations. Nemesis is actually very versatile in builds. I can't really give you a general build as she always is built differently. For a base build, Assassin's Blessing, Crusher for attack speed or Jotun's Wrath for cooldown, Warrior's Tabi. From there, items you can pick up but not limit to are, for damage, Stone Cutting Sword, Executioner, Titan's Bane, Hastened Katana for more attack speed and movement speed, Brawler's Beatstick for anti-heal. For defense or situational uses, Magi's Cloak, this item is really good for her as CC really counters her, Heart of the Urchin, Winged Blade, Golden Blade for better clear, Witch Blade. As you can see, she's just too versatile to even put a build together for her. It's heavily game dependent. For Alex, it's also always game dependent, but she commonly uses Blink and Beads. You can swap out Blink with Aegis if you really want to, but her 3 is so nice in regards to negating some damage. Counters of Nemesis. Nemesis is heavily countered by hard CC. If hit by hard CC while using her third ability will be cancelled instantly. Especially knockups. Keep that in mind when fighting enemy gods with easy knockups such as Pele or Geb. Her clear is not the best, but you can make it better if you choose to pick up Golden Blade. She relies on her slows to kill you, so an item like Wing Blade can counter you if the enemy picks it up. Heavenly Wings is also another counter to Nemesis, as Nemesis really relies on her slows. What not to do as Nemesis. Do not dash in all the time. It can be used as an engagement, but it's also your only escape. Another reason to use your dash carefully is that if the enemy has slow immunity, your dash will be down to chase them. Do not waste your ultimate on low health targets unless you really need it to chase them. Do not always go for the attack cancel with her 3, sometimes you will need her third ability for certain situations. Tips for Nemesis. Sometimes it can be worth to stand in enemy abilities that do tick damage when using her third ability. For example, on Poseidon's Whirlpool, if he's using his Whirlpool to get away and he's really low on health, you can use your 3 to reflect the damage and it might just kill him. This also really works on gods such as Nuwa. Often Nuwa will use her ultimate when she's low to get out of not so ideal situations. You can reflect her ultimate damage and it might kill her just before she gets back down. If you want to see that happen with a Ram ult, I've linked a very short clip down below in the description box by the Meat Man. It's hilarious and I recommend having a look on how the reflect damage can kill enemies. Time her third ability well. Remember that any CC and knockups will cancel it immediately. Use it when you're sure the enemies have no CC to counter the shield. Anyone without an escape or are out of position are easy kills for Nemesis. Remember that ulting a tank will take a lot of their protections away. You can make a tank turn into a squishy. Ulting a tank also gives you more protections than ulting a squishy. Remember that attack cancelling on Nemesis is really worth learning and maximizes her damage output. For a clearing tip, if you want to clear faster on minion camps, do not use your 2 straight away on them. Remember that the middle of your second ability does double damage. Instead, use your basic attacks on them first and then use your 2 when the camp minions are in the middle. Remember that her passive stacks her power and decreases the target's physical and magical power. Use her basics. And that is all for the Nemesis guide. If you would like to support me or simply request a god guide, you can find a coffee donation link down below. Any comments and likes would be super rad. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell if you haven't already. It really helps me out. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye!